Everybody, happy Tuesday. Welcome to a special episode of Kevin at 7. I am in a mountain cabin up here just having an incredible time. I want to talk today about how you can absolutely 100% guarantee your success. But I just realized I had to put a little juice, a little more firewood in the stove. And let's talk about how do you as an entrepreneur, how can you absolutely guarantee your success? Whether you're in real estate, as a real estate agent, you're an entrepreneur, you're a business owner, or anything else you are doing, you can absolutely guarantee your success. And it's not how you think, not what you do in your business, not where you go to school. It is something that is more, it is the environment in which you put yourself. The environment in which you put yourself is going to determine whether you win or whether you lose. Environment is more powerful than talent. It is more powerful than knowledge. It is more powerful than skill. It is more powerful than discipline. It is more powerful than willpower. Your environment is the single most important element when it comes to your success. Your environment is more important than your goals. And so today I'm going to talk about how do you guarantee and predict your success in your business and in your life. Now here's how it happened. Here's the story behind all of this. A couple of weeks ago, Julie and I were out on a Saturday. We'd gone to dinner. We've been shopping actually, and we were heading to dinner, I think, or we were out right after dinner. Good morning, everybody. Welcome as you come on. What's up, Scott? As you come on, make sure you post in the comments where you are from. Good to see all of you guys, and welcome to the special episode of Kevin at 7. So we were walking back to the car, and we were walking by a restaurant. There was a lot of people standing out here in Manhattan Beach. They were standing out there waiting in line to go into the restaurant. And it would just happen to be, there were two couples that were standing there, and the two husbands were just visiting. I don't know him, I didn't know him, but I just, as we're walking by, could not help but overhear one thing that one of the guys said. And his statement was very clear and very simple. He said, yeah, I'm thinking about getting me one of the new Lamborghinis. And that was it. That's all I heard. We were walking on, he said, yeah, I'm thinking about getting me one of the new Lamborghinis. And I was like, okay, here's a guy thinking about getting a Lamborghini. I was like, okay, cool. I'm in Manhattan Beach. It's one of the wealthiest communities in America. So it's not like, weird or unusual that you would hear something like that. But I just thought, I was thinking about it. I'm like, that's an interesting conversation. And I was thinking, as I grew up, in my past life, in my life growing up, I didn't even know what a Lamborghini was. I mean, like the idea of a Lamborghini is like, that must be one of those fancy cars from Europe. I don't even know, I have no memory of when the first time I ever heard of a Lamborghini was, but it was probably after college. As a kid, the biggest thing that I could dream of a car was a Pontiac Trans Am. That was it. Like a Pontiac Trans Am was the coolest car. This was back in the days of Smokey and the Bandit and whoever that was, Sally Field, and who was the guy in Smokey and the Bandit? Are any of you old enough to remember Smokey and the Bandit? It was Sally Field and Richard something. I cannot remember his name. If anybody knows the name, type it in the chat. Trying to remember the name of the guy in Smokey and the Bandit. But he drove, I think it was a Pontiac Trans Am. Burt Reynolds. I wasn't even close. Burt Reynolds, thank you. Yep. All right, thank you guys. All right, you guys got the answer. There it is. So Burt Reynolds and Sally Field and Smokey and the Bandit, and he drove, I think it was a Pontiac Trans Am. If I remember correctly, it was either a Trans Am or a Camaro or something. But that was the coolest car that I could imagine. When I got into college, my cousin got a Ford Mustang, and that was like, whoa, this was like elite, awesome, and everything. I was probably in my mid-20s, the first time I ever met somebody who actually drove a Mercedes-Benz. Okay, and I remember, and that he was actually a traveling evangelist. So he was like a preacher who traveled to different churches, pretty well known in our church circles. And his name was Virgil Trout. And he came to our church, and when he was a young preacher, like decades earlier, he had actually been the preacher at this church that I was at, where I was the preacher now. And he came back to do basically a revival or to speak, and he drove a Mercedes. And I can remember it was almost scandalous because you could hear people that were like, oh, what happened to Virgil? He used to be so well grounded and such down to earth, and now he's driving one of them luxury Mercedes German cars, and it was like people couldn't believe, and they were judging him, and it's like, what is he thinking? This guy probably is not even going to go to heaven anymore. I'm not even sure if he should be preaching at our church anymore because he's so worldly materialistic. He's actually driving a Mercedes. And I can remember talking to him because I'm the preacher, and so we're spending time visiting. We're having a meal together, and I never asked. I wasn't going to say anything about it. I'm a young preacher kid that's like trying to figure this stuff out and going like, not sure what to think, not sure. And he just kind of, I think he could tell. He's like, yeah, maybe I should say something about the Mercedes thing. So he brought it up, and he's like, yeah, I get a lot of criticism and judgment occasionally for driving a Mercedes, and he said. But see, what people don't understand is I'm not driving it to be luxurious. I'm driving it because it's practical. It's an investment for me. Because he said, I drive like 40 or 50,000 miles a year or whatever it is. I'm like, he would drive all over the country to speak at churches and all this kind of stuff. And he actually drove instead of flying. So instead of taking commercial airlines, it was less expensive for him to drive, and he had a nice car because a Mercedes, he's like, I've got 250,000 miles on this Mercedes. Which back then, that was a lot of miles. I'd never heard of any car having over 200,000 miles on it. So that was like, whoa, that's crazy. Yeah, this car will go 400,000 miles. I'm like, okay, because it's just the best built car in the world. And I'm like, okay. So I'm like, okay, I'm convinced. But it's interesting to me because even then it was like he was having to convince me it was not important, that it was luxury. It was just practical. And if you could convince us it was practical, then okay, we would give you a pass. But here's the thing. Now I'm walking past this two guys that are talking. He's like, yeah, I'm thinking about getting me one of those 2 Lamborghinis. So this kind of conversation I would have never experienced or been exposed to. And here's the point of all this, guys. If you're hanging out with people who are talking about buying Lamborghinis, your life is going to be very different than if you're hanging out with people talking about how they can afford to fill their tank with gas. Right? Think about it. Who are you hanging out with? Like I said at the beginning of this conversation, the single biggest predictor of your success, the single greatest predictor of your success is your environment. And one of the greatest elements of that environment is who are you hanging out with? I don't remember who it was that said, you are the sum total of the 5 people that you hang out with most of the time. Or 2 years from now, or 5 years from now, 10 years from now, you will be the sum total of the 5 people that you hang out with the most. And that's true. You show me your friends, I will show you your future. Show me your friends, I will show you my future. It's like somebody can type this. This is a quotable quote. Can somebody type it in the chat? Show me your friends, I will show you your future. Show me your friends, I'll show you your future. Because that is the truth. Because if you're in a conversation with people who talk about Lamborghinis, they talk about things that require abundance. You cannot continue to hang out with them unless you are in a game where you are creating abundance. If you can't afford to put gas in your used Hyundai or Honda, whatever it is, if that's your challenge, you're not going to feel comfortable hanging out with people who are talking about going down and buying a new Lamborghini. It's just not going to happen. Okay, if you're worried about making your rent payment when you're paying $200 a month for a rented bedroom like I was 10 years ago, sleeping on an air mattress, you're not going to be hanging out with people who live in $10 million houses. No, you got nothing to talk about. You got nothing in common. And so when we don't have anything in common with somebody, we won't hang out with them. We can't hang out with them. How can we hang out with them? So the number one predictor of your success as a business owner, as a human being, whether it's a real estate agent or anything, whether you're in mortgage or insurance or any type of small business, The number one predictor of your success is who are you talking to? Who are you listening to? Who are you hanging out with? Who are the friends that you are seeking out and building relationships with? And you're like, well, I look at my friends and I just don't have those kind of friends. Well, what do? Here's the action steps. Number one, you've got to commit to elevating the level of your association. One of the 4 fastest ways to change your life is to change the people that you are talking to and that you are listening to and that you are hanging out with. It just flat out changes who you are. Change the people you hang out with, and it will change the way you think. It will change because the conversations that you're having on the outside will impact the conversations you are having inside of your head. You want to win, you want to be successful in business and in life. If you're hanging out with people who are talking about not being able to pay bills, it's going to be a very different game than if you're hanging out with people who are talking about buying luxury items or taking big trips or giving a lot of money to charity. Last Friday, I was out with some friends of mine, and I met this new guy that my friends is Russ and Aaron Downs, who've been 2 of my long-term roundtable of Throne coaching members, but they're also great friends of ours. And they introduced me to the founder of the real estate brokerage that they are with, Lifestyle International Real Estate. His name is George. And we spent an entire evening together, probably 6 hours, hanging out together, talking about the future, talking about business. And the kind of things that he is doing. And in December, he was inviting me to a charity fundraiser that they are doing in December where they will raise tens of thousands of dollars for charity. And he's super excited about it. He's like, next year it's going to be this, and next year, and he's just like, he wants to expand it. Last year they raised, I don't remember, like $10,000 or $15,000, and this year they're going to try to 4 or 5x that. So he's like, just this vision of this is a guy who's not talking about scarcity, he's talking about abundance. And it's not just about himself and going out and buying the Lamborghini. So just in case any of you are confused and go like, yeah, well, I'm not that into material things. Okay, cool. Well, how would you like to be able to give $40,000 to your local charity? Or $100,000 or $500,000 or $1 million to be able to write a check to people like for causes like that. But you can't do it if you're not hanging out with people who think that way. You become like the people you hang out with. You become like the people you hang out with. You hang out with big thinkers, my friend, you're going to become a bigger thinker. It's just the law. It is just a law of association. It's the law of environment. You hang out with bigger thinkers, you're going to become a bigger thinker. I'm here in Tennessee for this week. I was in Asheville in North Carolina last week, and it's cold here. Like tonight, the lows will be in the mid-20s. Highs today will be around in the 30s. It's cold. And I'm like, I'm freezing. So I've got my fireplace going here. It's all cranked up. I'm only in a t-shirt because I've got it so warm in here with the wood burning stove that's right here behind me. But when I go outside, I'm cold. And yet when I was hanging out with people from New Jersey and DC and people that are used to cold weather, they're like, oh, this is great. And they're just in a shirt, and I'm all bundled up in a heavy coat and a hat, and I'm freezing because they're used to that environment. So they've been accustomed to that environment. Well, when you hang out in an environment of conversation with people who are big thinkers, you're going to get comfortable in that environment. You're like, oh, I'm just not comfortable. Like, I don't know what I would say. I don't know how to do it. Well, get in that environment. It's going to feel like being in a very cold place with no jacket on when you're not used to being in a cold place. It's going to feel uncomfortable for a while, but you'll acclimate. Don't worry about it. It's going to be fine. You're going to get accustomed to that, and all of a sudden the day will come where you feel totally comfortable in conversations with millionaires, with multimillionaires, with people who are movers and shakers, that have big dreams, that do big things, that live in a world of abundance and make an impact on a lot more people than small thinkers. So how do you do this? Well, number one, you have to make the decision. You've got to make the decision that I'm going to elevate my association. And then you got to seek it out. And then you have to expose yourself to people every day that stretch you, that make you uncomfortable. Put yourself in those uncomfortable situations, right? And that is the game. Okay, I got a lot of comments here. I'm just going to scroll back through here. Good morning. Yep, you guys are awesome. Okay, just love it. See you, Sherry, Scott, Bradley. Good to see you guys. $1 million only in my nightmares. Yeah, so this is where Jason and Chucky, I'm not exactly sure what all that means. Are those, billion, I can't see I can't count the zeros. Looks like $100 million houses on Elm Street. $1 million only in my nightmares. Red and black. I'm not sure exactly, Bradley, what you're talking about. Yeah, I don't even know what you're talking about, bro, but thank you for your contribution to this conversation. Maybe in the context, if I'd been watching it when it came up, it would do it. But guys, make a commitment, make the decision to change your association. Get into conversation with people who talk about things that freak you out, that make you nervous. And to do that, you got to have an open, non-judgmental mind. If you are going into this conversation the way I used to go into a conversation, like when I was having the conversation with Virgil about his Mercedes-Benz, I came from a background in a world of judgment, of judging other people. And if anybody was too big of a dreamer or had too nice, their stuff was too nice, then we had to judge them. They weren't worthy. They were materialistic. They were worldly. So who are you hanging out with? Who are you exposing yourself to? What kind of association are you seeking out? Because when you put yourself in a different environment, it changes the way you think, and the way you think changes the way you are. So if you like this video, guys, this is helpful for you, make sure you give this video a thumbs up. Thank you for your questions, comments. I'm going to be live tomorrow morning for Kevin at 7. Thursday and Friday, I am in a meditation retreat, so I will be completely off the radar, so I will not be here on Thursday or Friday, but I will be back next Monday for Kevin at 7. Yes, don't forget to hit the like button. Thank you, V. Craig. Appreciate that. Hit the thumbs up, hit the like button. Subscribe to my channel if you're new here and you want help in both motivation and strategy for building your business. I train mostly real estate agents, but I also have stuff that helps entrepreneurs. I also talk about your whole life. Why? Because it's not just your business. It is all of your life, and even your business, it's all life. So have a great Tuesday, everybody. Play to win and always expect yes.